My name is Janine Crooks, and I'm going to be the leader here today through our topic on this. So part of the reason why we wanted to do this was to discuss the reasons for auditing the relationship. It's a really good idea to do it when you're managing your affiliate program, to try and do this. You know, for starters, things are going to change over time. You know, if you've got a new program versus an established program, you're going to have two different sets of priorities now, and two different ways that you need to respond to the marketplace that's there in front of you. There's probably been changes in your vertical over time as well. You've got new competitors that are coming in. You've got old competitors who perhaps have now given you an opportunity to go after their existing affiliate base or to expand upon something that they're doing. You need to take a look at that and make sure that you're maximizing those priorities for yourself. There could be changes at the company and a change in the priorities that they've established. Maybe you've got a different management team who now wants to focus differently on how they drive traffic from the affiliates and the products that you focus on within your affiliate program. And also there's changes at the networks. People come, people go, technologies come and go. So you want to make sure that you've got the thing that's going to fit your program the best between them all. I will be the first one to tell you that no two networks are alike, that we each have our strengths, we each have our weaknesses. I get to say that because I'm with Affiliate Window. I'm with an affiliate network, so I'll tell you that right up front. And we aren't the best at everything. I think we are, but I know that we're not. And there's different strengths within the composition of their affiliate base, different strengths within the technology, different strengths in verticals for them. So you need to keep all of that in mind as you're auditing your relationship with your network. And the information that we're going to share today will kind of help you in a couple of different ways. It'll help you not only to audit an existing relationship, but perhaps to identify the things that are your priorities as you establish a new relationship. So part of what we wanted to let you know is our panel. So on the end is Karen McMahon, and Karen's been an account manager and OPM for over 10 years in the industry. So right now she, in addition to that, runs a loyalty publisher site, which keeps her very, very busy, I know as well. And then her primary focus right now is to work on developing strategies for underperforming affiliate programs. So she can go in and analyze a program and see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, how to make it perform better, make sure that you earn more money as a merchant. And then next to me is John Labruto. And John has been with 1&1 now as Director of Affiliate Management, right?
Affiliate Support.
Affiliate Support, got to get that title right, for about 3.5 years now. And he's also been in the industry for over 10 years, working with brands like American Airlines, Sabre, and Travelocity. And in addition to that, he also successfully started a merchant site. So he understood all of kind of those starting processes and how to do every step along the way to really make that a success. My name is Janine Crooks. I'm with Affiliate Window. I've been in the industry since 1999, so I've been around for a long time and seen a lot of changes. The very first affiliate program that I ever started, I didn't know what it was called in affiliate marketing. I just kind of invented something and it worked. Then I found out there was a name for this industry. So I've been a merchant, I've been an affiliate, I've been a vendor, and now this is my second time with an affiliate network. So we've got a lot of different experiences and many, many years in this industry. We've kind of seen just about everything that's going on.
We have lots of good stories, too.
We have lots of good stories. Just to give you an idea of the different networks we've worked on, and we'll kind of let you know. So Impact Radius is one of the networks that we've worked with CJ, Trade Doubler, Affiliate Window, Share a Sale, LinkShare, Has Offers, Vorku, and eBay Enterprises. And that's actually not all of them, but that's all that fit on the slide. So we kind of let it there. So, you know, we've had a lot of experience across the way. So while we don't intend to name specific networks in identifying some of the things, feel comfortable that we've experienced it in more than one place. So let's go ahead and get started here. When you're auditing your merchant network relationship, we felt that there are basically three pillars that were the primary categories to consider. The first is transparency, the second is cost and value, and the third is business development. Those are the three kind of primary things, and you'll find that just about everything fits into one or the other of those categories. So what we want to do is we are very open to making it a discussion panel. So if you've got questions, please don't be afraid to just say, hey, can you help me out with something, or I've got a question about how that might work. And we're more than happy to be able to do that. So I'll just repeat the question to benefit the photographer. So the first topic is transparency. And basically, there's 3 areas within this. The first is reporting. So how well does the network capture data and provide timely analytics to you? The second item is tools. How sophisticated is the network's distribution capabilities and usability? And the third area is their interface. How flexible is the interface, and how dependable is the technology? So John's going to get us started on transparency.
So we broke these up into 3 specific categories, and like Janine had said, the 10 things that we're going to discuss fall into one of these 3 particular categories. This particular category is called transparency, and it really falls into the most important, I think, aspect of the affiliate and merchant relationship. It's not only a question of can you contact this particular publisher, as an example, from a merchant's perspective, but it's also about is the interface capturing the data properly, are the commission levels accurately explained in the interface. Basically, what we're trying to do is give as much information to both parties as possible. And does your network do that? Do you have issues? Do you have hiccups? Do you have scenarios where the affiliates are not necessarily getting the information they want, or can you not get the information that you particularly need? The best opportunity you have to build any kind of trust within the network relationship is transparency within the network, because otherwise you just really don't have any kind of dialogue or relationship between the two. A lot of the different networks offer different levels of transparency, different access to data, different templates for merchants or for affiliates, and different service levels. Quite honestly, you may have a network that has a higher service level and allows you to see everybody's information, such as email addresses or contact information, or more detailed or drilled down information for the websites that are being used. And you may have to pay for that access as opposed to it being a free option. So these are things to consider. I mean, how much are your publishers, if you are a merchant, getting the information that you're sending out? And how clear is it to them? And how well does it work for them? And of course, network reliability and tracking. We're going to go into that. I mean, that's the key piece also. Does it serve your needs? Does it serve the needs for your affiliates? And is the data accurate? That's really what it comes down to. And that's the key part in the long-term strategy. These relationships need to have these pillars, involved, and build that kind of trust.
So we're going to start off with reporting. So the first item on here is dashboards. How is your interface working for you? So John?
Yeah, so you're going to evaluate your dashboard. I mean, dashboard is probably the least in my list personally, but it's something that's important because if you have multiple networks that you're using, you're going to want to get as much information as possible in a quick manner. So how well does that work for your time management? And how important is it to you? It may not be important, but it may be. Do you want to go through the whole list? Or do you go through? Yeah.
And some of the dashboards you can customize what you're seeing right on the front page as you sign in, and others, are you get what you get. So, so you just want to sort of think about like what are the most important pieces of information that you want to see right as you're signing in each day. I think that's it. Do we want to talk about?
Well, now we're going to move on to publisher details, which is to John.
Yeah, publisher detail is absolutely my underline, and really, to me, brings forward the transparency concept. You get so frustrated from the perspective of reporting, or even the perspective of business development, trying to find out exactly who the proper contact is at that particular organization, what website you're being placed on. Exactly how it's being placed and how it's being, and you just really want to get into the details and have a one-on-one relationship with your publisher. And some of the networks put barriers in between you and the publisher. They want to own the relationship, and sometimes you have to pay additional fees to get access to that relationship. So for me, networks that have clear transparency as their service level, meaning simply, do they provide an email address? Must you have an email address on your profile page? Must it be current? Do you have to contact the person that contacted you within a certain amount of time for that service level agreement? I mean, I think these are the most important pieces because then it allows the marketplace to work itself out as opposed to having intervention.
I still love it that there are a few affiliate networks out there that let people sign up as affiliate or Bob or something,
Yeah.
and you get these applications, and you totally can't tell who these people are, what their intentions are with them participating in your program,
Or where they're located.
It's really a waste of time to have to even sort through these folks, and try to find which are your better quality applications. So it's also nice that some of the affiliate networks do a lot of pre-screening before they'll even let affiliates into their network to sort of clean out some of the sketchy or junky affiliates.
Right.
Oh, it's really so critical to be able to do that, because you can kind of get some sense of the publisher and probably what their capabilities are, even in some cases by the details that they provide. They misspell their own company name. I've seen that. Just because like I said, I've been in the industry forever, so I'm not just going to talk about what I've experienced in the last couple of years, but from before. I had affiliates that intentionally timed their application to our program and their approval to our program because they knew that we paid out on the 1st of the month. So they would join about the 25th. They would send a ton of traffic on like the 27th, 28th, 29th, get paid on the 1st, and by the 2nd we found out it was all fraud. So, we had to put a lot of things in place there, but, the network that I was working with at the time kind of didn't help at all. And the fraud was to the point where I actually got called by the sheriff of a place. It was lead generation stuff, and they had evidently just opened up a phone book and started taking people out of the phone book and using that to fill out lead forms. And, we ended up with everybody's last name started with an A. They all lived in the same very first town alphabetically in that state. They all were accountants. They all made $40,000 to $55,000. They all drove Acuras. So it was kind of like, really, And so, how much help are you going to get from somebody to be able to do that? And if we could have seen some of those publisher details a little bit more in place, probably would have helped us kind of block that before that happened. Linked data mining and product data mining are also two kind of important things in there. What kind of information can you get out of it that's going to meet your needs as a merchant to be able to, do whatever reporting or things like that you do. I know, John, you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important, right? Everything's data-driven these days, and, you basically want to make decisions off of the best data you have, and the data is what's in the network, and that's what you're going to be able to pull out, and how well does the reporting suite work for your needs? Are you getting link, is it drilling down to the link level? I mean, you're doing promotions, you're doing coupons, you're doing specific banner ads, specific promotional text link verbiage. You want to know what's working, right? And are you getting those reports per publisher? Or are you getting those reports per product? We have a number of products at 1-on-1. We have over 80 different tariffs that we call tariffs, but are really product IDs. And I need to know exactly what's working for each one of those particular tariffs and as they relate to links. So is the reporting suite that sophisticated? And that's really not too sophisticated, but 5-10 years ago probably would have been more of a choice. So these are the things, we're going through all these things here, and these are the things that you just have to go through your head. I mean, these are the ideas and all of the points of information that you really want to go through in your mind. And does it work for you?
So I think we've pretty much covered that. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the grouping.
Right.
And so what we're talking about with grouping is that, it's kind of like, how are you going to market to your publishers? Is there an easy way to find affiliates that are similar to each other or in a particular niche and be able to put them into a segment so that you can then market specifically to those segments really easily? You also want to think about maybe there's a certain group of affiliates that are going to be your top performers or folks that are underperforming, and you want to incentivize them. You want to make sure the system to be able to bonus those folks is very easy, and that you can actually, put it, if you can get them all into a group, then you can usually bonus them all together, or do a rev share increase, that sort of thing. So the way that these processes work on each network are a little different, so you just want to make sure that it's working for you, and when you're looking at a new network to definitely review these sorts of things.
Yeah, and grouping works in many different ways, right? So you may be grouping. I have 9,000 affiliates in one program, and maybe 1,000 are active. So I need to know how they're working in a million different ways, And one of that is, how do groups work? Can you have multiple groups for one particular publisher? Do you have to have just one group? Are you limited in that respect? I mean, I sometimes have groups for all my different offers, offers or commissions, depending on the term for the network. So you want to be able to, again, go back to data mining. Am I now on a publisher level or on an offer level? Can I group them and then report based on group activity? So it's all very important. And again, we're in a very data centric phase, in business at this point. Everything's data driven. So, all of these different things, the reporting suites can be great, they could be lacking, and they could be in development. And in development's fine, as long as that the network's responsive and that they do have a regular schedule of upgrades. But obviously you want something as sophisticated as possible. But then again, your needs might not be that sophisticated. You may just need to find basic information, and it's a grab and go, and you have one product and one offer, and so it may not be necessary for you to look at this. So again, these are the checklist items, and say yes, no. Is this important to me? Is it not? And is it something that I need to really dive into?
And then also to take a look at categories. How can you find out, for example, a specific type of affiliate? Are you able to break them out that way as you're doing your searches? Or can you find them out specifically by what topic areas? So is this someone who only does fashion? Then if that's the case, then I don't want them to sell my gardening tools. So things along those lines.
Yeah, grouping. I mean, I'm sorry, categories actually falls into grouping also, but it really has to do with biz dev and being able to reach out to the publishers. So I'm a web hosting company. And again, I don't need any really fashion-driven publishers on my program. So what I would do is, on existing publishers, go through categories on what they're basically listing within a network and how sophisticated their actual activity is. In other words, are they listing themselves properly? So you go back to see the site. But, it's also for biz development. For me, it's, I'd like to say it's easy, but nothing's easy. I need to know who's playing in the web hosting field. I need to understand exactly what publishers are working in that level, or really what my targets are small business. So who's a small business related website, and how can I get my links on that particular website? I don't need to know everybody else. And if I start pulling reports that aren't detailed in the specific categories that these publishers are in, I'm dealing with thousands and thousands of just nonsense lines on a report. So again, how important is that to you, really?
So on we move to tools. So we've got, for starters, promos and coupons.
So on promos and coupons, how does your program manage promos and coupons? Again, is it specific link ID driven? Can you pull reports to this? How does it get distributed? How well do you actually, in fact, get your promotions out to your publishers, and how timely is it? You have certain industries that, they have flash sales, 3 days, and it's gone. If you don't have publishers accessing that within the hour of it being distributed, it's useless, or monthly, sometimes we're in slow motion, where you may have monthly updates to your publisher goals, to your product, your promos and coupons. And your publisher goal is to get them live as soon as possible. 3 weeks into the month, you start seeing a kick up of your number of publishers that are listed on a particular promo. You've lost more than half the month. And then also going back and being able to report exactly what website, what placement, who picked up these things in an easy manner, and not really having to search for 20 minutes. I think Janine saw me do that this morning, on exactly where a specific placement is for a coupon. That drives me crazy.
What's becoming more common as technology continues to advance with the network? Some of the networks are really innovating to keep up with the other verticals in internet marketing, and we're starting to see ways to reward your affiliates differently and where you fall in the sales channels. So some networks you're able to sort of block out everybody who, let's say you push out an exclusive vanity coupon to one particular publisher. Back in the day, there was a lot of scraping of other sites going on where, one coupon site would then, steal from other sites and that sort of thing. So that code would be used all over the place. So as a merchant, you often didn't have a lot of control on what happened when you went and pushed these offers out. So now some networks allow you to lock in that code so that they will only reward dashboard folks from the original site that it's intended for. So there are other advances like that that are coming about. Another thing that's kind of interesting, I always try to give a publisher perspective as well, since I've run a loyalty model shopping site for so long. And one of the things we've been messing with lately have been the offer APIs. So basically, whenever you're putting in, as a merchant, you're putting in all your different coupon offers and what have you on the one side. As soon as those go live in the system, most networks will put them into an API, and then affiliates are able to go in once a night, several times a day, however they have it set up, to be able to pull all that information down and into their site. It's interesting because it depends on the network how smoothly this process goes. And some types of offers, it depends on how you categorize them as to whether they will be fed out the other end and automate this for your publishers. So it's one of those things where even though it's kind of techy, you should ask a bunch of questions on that and see. So for instance, if you're updating a lot of your general links that don't have an end date, for instance, for an offer, those are ones that you might not tag as a sale or a coupon or whatever. So some of those may not be passed out to the affiliates. But if you have ones that are specific, deadline driven, or have a specific coupon code in them, and you mark them as coupon or sale or free shipping or whatever, those will be picked up by the API feeds. So there's just different parameters depending on the networks that you're playing with. So that might be a place where you can think about tweaking your program, and definitely ask questions if you're thinking about moving to another network.
And actually, some of the APIs, or some of the networks will require you to have a start and a stop date. So that the affiliate's not going to ever guess, and you hopefully won't end up with any really old, Christmas offers that are still showing up on Mother's Day, which is not a good thing.
From 4 years ago.
Yeah, we've seen that happen too. Similar items here on the product feeds. With product feed, it's pretty standard now that everybody's got the feed, but how robust is it? How many additional categories are you going to be able to have? Are you going to be able to have one picture? Are you going to be able to have multiple pictures? Are you going to be able to, for example, this was one I had to learn about for tickets. Can you get specific on the latitude and the longitude of where the theater is? Because you've got so many folks that want to use that to be able to pinpoint on a map for their customers that they're coming in on. Does it have things like the SKU, which more and more affiliates are asking for now, because they're using it as a way for people to be able to track products.
And this really gets down to your needs, right? So I have a service-driven line within 1&1. I don't really have products, physical products. So I can put down SKUs and information on all of our different tariffs or services, but they're not going to sell it direct. I don't have an API to hook it to my cart. They have to go to my website. But product feed's really important for APIs related to coupons. So that's how I distribute it. So, it's all a question of how important is this to you, and what are you going to use it for, basically.
Right. Marketplace. We're going to move up faster.
Yeah, we move faster.
Yeah. We talk a lot.
So, John, you want to cover the marketplace?
Yeah, so marketplace really, this goes back to, transparency and upfront, dialogue between the merchant and the publisher. So, again, how is the network getting in the middle of it, or are they facilitating, the actual relationship? A marketplace, there are some networks that actually have, marketplaces. They have different names for them. And you could find, offers or information about publishers and merchants, and really start to facilitate that relationship, and that goes back to publisher details and being able to access, and it goes back to business development, which we'll talk about later. How do we get a hold of these publishers? What do they do? What are their offers? And vice versa with the merchants.
Some marketplaces also you have to pay to play, so make sure that that's clear in your contract and how that works. Others you are able to access the marketplaces, but sometimes, like if you're trying to send out group recruiting emails, for instance, you have to pay for those as well. It just depends on the network.
So newsletters and emails.
So there we go.
Yeah. So, so that is definitely something to take a look at. How easy is it for you to be able to send out an email and communicate with your affiliates? Because regular communication is so critical, but are you going to have to pay every time to do it? Are you going to be able to do it in a beautiful HTML setting, even if you're not a coder? Or do you have to strictly use it kind of as a Word document, that sort of thing? How easy is it to segment your list so that you're only emailing to the folks that you want? are all kind of questions that you want to put in there. Is it an email that's going to only go out once to the current base, or is it an email that's going to still be available to them if somebody joins in 2 weeks and they can still get notified about the sale that you've got that's going on till the end of the month? All those kinds of things are things to be able to look at as far as their interface goes.
And also trying to figure out exactly how that email or newsletter looks like to the end receiver, because, like, for example, if it's published under a network banner, they're probably getting 100 of those from all the different merchants from that particular network. But if it's published under your company, then it's a little bit more unique, and they can actually open it and know this is coming from one-on-one as opposed to coming from CJ or Affiliate Window or some of the other networks.
Right. The next thing to take a look at is directories, because this really is important as you're trying to figure out. It's got to be a tool that you can use when you're going in there and you're trying to figure out who it is that you want to work with.
Yeah, and this goes with recruitment and communication too. I mean, how are you finding your relationships, right? So, is it just listed under the names? Does it go into the categories like we talked about? Is there a process within the network of recruitment? So, do you actually have a physical tool to go ahead and recruit the publishers that you want? So you can put in all the different categories, all the different information that you need to really, really hone down and get that list that is absolutely a perfect match.
Or promotional types.
Yeah, exactly.
Promotional types is always critical as well.
Exactly.
Right. And sometimes geographic location.
Yep.
Like, for example, if you're on a financial services firm and you can only work with publishers that are from the U.S., can you filter by things like that?
And that's actually very important, because we have websites that are absolutely specific to the market that we serve. So if we have an affiliate link that comes through to the U.S., but it's a U.K. affiliate or a U.K. end customer, if we direct them back to the U.K. site, the tracking's probably going to be broken. So that's another good reason to make sure that you have the proper affiliate profile for your publishers.
And now moving on to interface. So some of the things that obviously are critical on here are things like the tracking and sub-IDs, the pixels and cookies.
Yeah, so all of that has to do with how you implement the program, right, and exactly what the particular program, what the particular company offers you. Some things, are they strictly cookie-driven? Well, we have issues with cookie stuffing, we have cookie blocking. Does that affect, or will that affect, your actual reporting and actual tracking? Do you have a sub-ID capability? Because if you have sub-networks that run on that particular program, you need that sub-ID capability. Same thing with loyalty, and I think they'll mention that a little bit later. How well is it working for you? Do you test it, and does it work with your back office or your back database within your company? We have a very, very robust reporting suite internally, and it almost never matches exactly on the network side. But that has to do with how the pixels are firing and when they're firing. So, you really want to take a look at all of the different platforms and see what works best. You could also test. I'm sure you can do a lot of different things, or if your tech department can really digest and say, well, this really works. Is there a container system within the implementation process, which makes things easier, because then you just load it once and then you can add as many pixels as you want afterwards, as opposed to having to do all this network development. So, again, really has to do specifically with what your needs are, but it's an important evaluation piece.
Karen, I know corrections.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention real quick on the tracking piece too. We're seeing more and more as companies are getting savvier with having internal, multi-channel tracking that they're doing. That even, how does the process work for adding Google Analytics IDs or other kind of internal tracking IDs to your merchant links? That goes smoother on some networks than others, and so, but that's becoming very common. Are you able to capture the information that you need to be able to report internally? And it's true, the affiliate tracking and the internal tracking almost never match. You try to get it as close as you can, but you're always going to see some different bumps there. So you just want to sort of monitor that and make sure everything's going well.
So on corrections.
Corrections, one of my favorites. No. Everybody's got to deal with corrections, and like I have I've worked in the product sectors much more as opposed to service, so we also have to deal with returns a lot in the merchants that we're managing, and so you want to make sure that the process is easy for you. I mean, is this a pain point? I know there's a network or two out there that you can only do corrections on certain days of the month, And so you have to wait until the magic button goes off and, you know, you get invoiced, and then you're like, I have 3 days to do corrections and returns and all that. And you've got to get everything in a row before you can, you know, move on to the next month. And so other networks are easier to deal with, where you know, you can do corrections and deal with your returns, you know, on whatever schedule you want to deal with. So so that's more my personality. I enjoy that more. And I know that on the network that I have to be really, you know, focused on, I have, you know, I have about 6 stars on everything on my calendar and around my desk to be like, okay, it's coming up. We got 3 days, you know, to do this.
So by offers, we also mean like terms. So John, you were...
Yeah, so just between corrections, offer, you know, there's different levels. So again, what's important to you? You know, in a retail environment, you have returns. In a service environment, you have, we have a 60-day correction period. So does it automatically turn into a sale, you know, from our gross to net? Exactly how does it work? You know, and does it work for the publisher? And again, is it transparent? On offers, the same kind of thing. Can you have multiple offers for multiple publishers, or do you just have to have one default and then everything else is a custom? You know, you really want to be able to have as a robust, especially on commissions, you know, offers are really, we're talking about terms and commissions. You really want to have an absolute robust suite, but you also don't want it to bleed into each other. If you're offering someone 100 and another guy 50, you don't really, unless they're talking to each other and they're friends, you really don't want them to see. So that's an anti-transparency in a way. You want to be able to keep, you know, your relationships private, you know, in each case.
We spent a lot of time working on this, so we came up with way too many stories, I think, so we're going to speed it
Well,
up.
you know, the thing about this also is that this is your checklist. So those of you
Right.
on the video, those of you in the room, if you actually do have an audit of your network, you just take this particular presentation and use it as a checklist. And that's kind of how we developed it, really.
Yeah, and figure out where your pain points are, you know, and figure out, you know, what's most important to you and what can you live with, and then what are the
Right.
things that are starting to really bug you or suck up a lot of your time. And that's when you might want to start, you know, looking at maybe moving elsewhere to have a better experience.
And if you're evaluating your network, you do a scale of 1 to 5 and then do all these on a 1 to 5 and see who wins.
So when it comes to authentication and fraud,
That's important, right?
That's
So,
a big one.
you know, are they telling you about fraud, or are you telling them about fraud? You know, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Do you have, like, a month later, you find out there's all these frauds, and then you have to call the network up and say, hey, you know, is this publisher, you know, activity fraudulent? Or are they contacting you, say, this suspicious activity, take a look at these transactions? You know, that's a really telltale sign if they really got, if you have a good relationship with them, if they're communicating with you very important information, you know, it's very important.
Absolutely. I was in an experience a couple of years ago where we had fraud that wasn't discovered for about 90 days. So it's one of those things you want to really be on top of. And you know, by that point, all the commissions had already locked in, and publishers were being paid and what have you. So there wasn't much we could do, you know, other than going back to the publishers and sort of schmoozing free placements for the fact that they got paid for items they shouldn't have. So you know, you just really need to be proactive on these things. And if anything seems odd, you know, as I said, the more you talk to your network, the more, you know, they can help you with this. But if they don't, you know, you really need to be in there monitoring your reporting on a regular basis.
are they going to be doing it?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
because what
Who's
we're talking
gonna
about
help
here
you?
is like how your network is there with you. It should be a partnership. That's what it's got to be. So do they have your back on that, or are you going to have to be the one every time to try and find it?
And the next two are just simple. It's by website and real-time data. So by website, it's fairly simple. Can you get the information and reporting by the actual website? So you have a publisher that has a company ID. Are you pulling reports based on all of their websites because it's not broken out? Or are you getting information for the specific website that the activity is actually on? Because that's the most important thing. Some of these publishers have 5, 10 websites. You want to know exactly where your activity is and actually drill down your reporting. And on real-time data, it really goes back to when you do your tests, does it show up immediately, an hour later, the next day? How is it concurrent with your internal system? My internal system's in Germany. So at midnight Germany, everything's tomorrow. So how does that work, you know, and does it work for you? Or do you want somebody in Europe, you know, that has the same kind of clock? You know, it depends on really what your needs are. Does it have to be perfect?
Okay, let's move on to costs and values. So here we've got 3 items as well. First is startup and maintenance. So how cost effective is your network? What's it going to cost you to get going on there? Merchant and affiliate support. Is your network support proactive or not? And third, global reach. Is your network in all the markets that are important to you? So Karen?
Okay, so we're going to start up with just talking a little bit about costs and value. If it's been a little while, you've been on a network for a bit, you sort of just go on with your day. You don't really think about a lot of these things. But, every once in a while you should really assess what your true costs are and what the value is that you're still getting out of your network experience. So, and costs can be, of course, financial, what goes on paper, but it also can be what your time commitment is and how that translates into financial, but also how much stress it's creating. You want to have a smooth experience working in your network, and if that's sliding or you're not, having a positive experience, it might be a good time to look around. So all in all, you want to, make sure that you're getting your money's worth, but you also want to have as much peace of mind with your network relationship as you possibly can. And remember, sometimes you get what you pay for. So if you're the sort of person where you're going to have the best contract ever and you're going to, just argue down to that last penny of what you want in your contract, you might burn some bridges, and then they're not as willing to help you later on. So I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about how to negotiate your contracts and renegotiate them as you go. But you want to walk away from a contract negotiation where both parties are happy and willing to work with each other. You don't want to burn those bridges up front.
So the first area we wanted to talk about was fees. So here's an idea of some of the fees that we wanted to kind of cluster together. So you want to check out the monthly fees, what's your join fee or your setup fee, whether there's any hidden or unexpected fees. Sometimes on a new program you may not necessarily know what they all might be, but you can find out from other merchants or from your program manager or something if there's something that all of a sudden you got surprised about. And then you want to take a look at the non-financial costs and values, and are there any additional fees, plus negotiating the best possible contract. And Karen actually is an expert when it comes to negotiating those kinds of contracts.
I started out in politics, so I've done many contract negotiations over the years. So I just want to spend a minute or two on just sharing how I go about schmoozing with network folks and getting the best deal for our clients. And my father-in-law used to always say this, that your contract should always be there for you when times go bad. So it's like the worst case scenario. So it's not a piece of paper that should be overwhelming to you and you have no idea what it's saying, so you just sign it. You should always just make sure, as painful as it sometimes can be to read through your contract, make sure that you understand what you're signing. So if you ever have to go to bat with somebody, you can go back to the contract and be like, here's what this says, or this was my expectation from when we originally talked about this. You should review your network contract from time to time, and just make sure that you are getting what you originally hoped for out of your network. Your relationship and your partnership with your network will evolve over time, and so it's good to revisit that, and you can use your contract to actually schmooze for a better relationship. I love the word schmooze. Everybody knows that. And you want to ask a million questions up front, and then at any time, if you still are unclear about something in your contract and as you're reviewing it, go back and ask the folks in the network and the sales team, exactly what were you talking about in this section. Some of the things that you might want to think about is, first of all, what's the percentage of the network fee for working in the network? Usually it's based on every sale that you drive, and those fees are not always set in stone. They may tell you up front that they are, but sometimes, for instance, they'll give agencies a better rate, or if you don't really have to play hardball, but if you're nice about it, you can sometimes get them to, if you say, that's just too much for us, or if we grow to a certain point, would you consider down the road dropping that fee a little bit so this is a more manageable situation for our side of things. There are all sorts of things that can be negotiable, even if they don't tell you up front. For instance, one of the things that you can maybe ask to cut your upfront costs is to see if they'll waive the join fee or the integration or maintenance setup fee. And then even if they say no to all those things, you want to ask for any extras or perks that you can get out of it. So maybe, they'll be willing to advertise you in the next several newsletters or, so many times a year, or, other things that are sort of the paid extras. See whatever you can get out of them. Nicely, of course. So, and you always want to act like, you'll do a favor for them and be a good client if they'll do favors for you. So, the other side of that is if you are thinking about leaving a network and you're kind of on the fence about it, like your relationship's been sliding and you're trying to figure out, obviously it's a pain a lot of times to pick up and move to another network. So you're not at that breaking point where I'm like, I got to get out of here. But you are trying to figure out if it's worth staying on for a bit or whatever. You can use that to your advantage. So never be afraid to talk to the network and tell the folks what your pain points are, and use that to renegotiate your contract. So in other words, like if you lowered our fees to X%, we would consider staying on for another year and sign another contract with you. Or if you helped us with the following items that are not, that we're not really getting enough help with right now, things like recruiting or exposure or whatever, we would maybe think about sticking around. And the other thing you can do, the networks don't like this, but you can often negotiate a short-term contract if you've been on the network for a while. So, you just let them know, well, we're not extremely happy and we're thinking about maybe moving around. Would you be willing to, work with us for a couple months longer and see if we can work out some of these issues? And if you do, then we will maybe sign on for another year or two. So that's another a trick to the trade. And of course, it's always good practice if you can hang in there, not to cold turkey quit one network to move to another, because it's really disruptive for all your publishers and it's going to affect your sales numbers in almost all cases. So it's better to phase out of one network and then start with the next one. Make sure your integration is up and running, and then move your publishers over the course of a few months. And then if all is going well, then you'll phase out on that short-term contract with the other network that you don't want to work with anymore.
We're going to keep moving here because I know we're starting to run out of time. So on the merchant and affiliate standpoint, things like your account reps at the network, do you have somebody that you can call? Do you know who it is, or are you part of the general pool? Sometimes it's okay to be part of the general pool, but you've got to make sure that that level of support is okay with you. The general contact process, I know, Karen, you've run into some issues with that.
Yes. So some networks, these are questions that you want to ask, especially for your affiliates too, like what's their process if they run into a problem and they, need to contact someone at the network to help them, as much as you, when you run into a problem, are you going to end up on a send an email here list and then we'll get back to you within 72 hours, especially if you're having a tech problem. That's very unacceptable. So you want to, definitely make inroads and get immediate contacts whenever you can, especially if you don't have a direct rep at a network.
And this goes back to the fee issue also, because, are you getting access to the information you need, and do you have a contact person, or do you have to pay for it? Mm-hmm. Some networks you have to pay for account management. It's a ridiculous amount, and what are you getting on that value? But like Janine said, on the general support, does it work? I know that we work with Janine, and Janine's fantastic, and I probably, other than our fees, that's what I pay for, is just our fees, and I have a fantastic account rep, so
Right.
it works out very well for me. So I don't need to go anywhere else from that perspective.
Thank you. That works for me. One of the things, too, that Karen had mentioned earlier is make sure that you've joined your program as an affiliate. Get that account so that you've got their experience, because their interface is going to look different than yours. Are they having a good experience when they log in? Are they seeing things the way you want them to see them? Do they understand easily what your promotions are? So, kind of make sure that you've done that as well. And did you have any trouble doing that? Your network should just be able to let you do that without a heartbeat of pause.
And what's the experience level of your support either way, whether you're paying for it or not? Mm-hmm. Is it, I don't know, or, I'll find out, and do they find out?
And the last part is global reach, because it's going to be very important for you. If you have any designs on growing outside of your original country, are you able to do that within your network? Now, one of the things that I've learned along the way is that a lot of networks, especially as you start going overseas, have specific verticals that they focus on. It's not as common here in the U.S. as it is overseas, but for example, one very large network, if you go to Europe, they're primarily known for fashion. Other networks are primarily known for tech services. And then there are a few that kind of do more general, kind of every different product because they're bigger. So they're able to do that. So those are the kinds of things that you want to do. But see, are you going to have additional costs if you want to expand internationally? What's the affiliate payment process if they're working with multiple countries? Can they handle that? Can they pay in multiple currencies? Can they accept payment in multiple currencies? Can they process that and track that within their interface? So those are all kinds of some of the questions that you need to be able to ask if you want to go outside the U.S. Also, some of the other networks are going to have affiliates that are coming to you that are based outside the U.S., as we were talking about before. Is that something that you can handle? Is that something you're comfortable with? Can you have the visibility to be able to see, okay, this is what their site looks like in the UK, this is what their site looks like in the U.S., this is what their site looks like in Chinese, because it'll happen. And the thing is, too, is that we're becoming such an international country here that you may have a site that's in Chinese and they're based in San Francisco. So they're really appropriate for you as a merchant. But can you actually work with that? Can your network work with that and give you the support that you need to get through there?
So two questions on this from my perspective. Do you have a global market product, company? Are you promoting globally, or will you be promoting globally? So, does the network support your future growth plans? And, if you're choosing a network from start, do they serve all your markets? You're never really going to get one network that serves all your markets unless you get very lucky. But that's a very important piece, because if you have to have a separate network, you have to have additional fees and costs and support. And so, how well does it integrate into your existing, and how well will it integrate to your growth? And that's a very important question, because if you're going into Latin America or Asia or certain markets that are not completely developed from an affiliate marketing perspective, what are you going to do? How are you going to actually operate in those markets?
Then our final category was business development. So this includes affiliate recruitment. How easy is it to find partners? Expanding your current base. So does the network have the partners that I need? Finding partners that fit. Are they the right partners for me? Not just partners, but the right ones. And relationships. Does the network help you develop those? So is your network actively helping you grow your program? That's not a hard one. It's either a yes or a no, and you want to make sure that it's a yes. So whether your agreement's just for support or just self-service, either way, your network should provide both the information and the tools you need to go to the next level. So the first item in there is affiliate recruitment. So do they offer you a way to recruit both on-network and off-network? What are the opportunities, and how do they get your message out to the affiliate base to make sure that you're going to attract the affiliates that you want? Are there promotional opportunities that are easily identified? A lot of affiliates now have a pay-to-play scenario. So are they going to help you if you need to negotiate an integration fee with the affiliate? Are they going to tell you if that affiliate's got a special promotion that's just perfect for you? Who knows? Maybe Easter Sunday is the ideal day for you. Are you going to find out who's got those special newsletters or whatever? What's the size and scale of their marketplace? Do they have a large enough affiliate base in your area to be able to meet your needs as a merchant? Most of the guys should be able to work with all the big publishers, but do they also have that long tail that's going to give you all those extra sales in the end? And does your network actively promote you? Do you know that they're out there when they're talking to somebody, they're saying, yes, and I've also got, johnqpublic.com as my affiliate merchant, and I want you to be able to know that these guys are great. It's a very important part of that. How proactive is your network going to be in recruiting new affiliates for you?
It's the most important piece for me. You're constantly growing. You constantly have to find affiliates. It goes back to transparency, and how transparency helps you do it yourself. And this is a question of how much are they helping you do it for you. Especially if you're paying. If you're paying an account management fee, as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% for biz dev. Or maybe 95% biz dev, 5% support. You really absolutely, some of these networks have thousands and thousands of publishers, and again, contact information is scarce. We found ourselves in one network just paying for account management so we can contact publishers. Basically anybody without a contact information, you hand over to your account management folks and say, hey, find these people so I can have a meeting. It's ridiculous. So that's a very important thing to consider. How well will you be able to recruit affiliates? Because, affiliates go. I mean, 10% of your affiliate base at a minimum is going to be lost every year, probably more like 20%. So, you got to fill that back up, and if it's your top affiliates, that could be a huge impact to your actual program. So you got to constantly churn and bring new people in, and the only way to do that is to have support, or at least have an automated way of supporting yourself.
And it's no longer a case where, you always want to hammer down on the top, 20 or 25 sites that have always been around, because, it's gotten very competitive to get their attention or get a placement on any sites, and it's gotten very expensive. So you always want to see, who's up and coming, who's innovating, who's really able to provide quality content for what you're trying to push out. So you almost want to take a multi-vertical, philosophy to all of this. And the more that your network can help you brainstorm on this, the better.
So then expanding your base. There's always going to be underperformers in any program. Are they going to help you identify who they are? Are they going to help you be able to reach out to them? Are they going to be able to tell you whether they're worth reaching out to? Are you going to have the statistics so that whether or not the network does that work on your behalf or you're doing it yourself, are you going to have the information that you need to be able to identify them? That should be part of what you see in your interface. Are there special affiliate promotional opportunities? So, you can pay to be in a newsletter. You can pay to have a promotional post. How easy is that? How much can you find out about that? Sometimes joint promotions with other merchants are very appropriate. So, maybe we're going to do a hosting program in conjunction with somebody who's selling computer equipment. So build your first website, here's where you get your computer, here's where you get your hosting. Are they ever coming to you with those kinds of opportunities? They're not as common, but there's some that can be very, very powerful. Or if you see something that's an opportunity, can you go to the network and say, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so to see if maybe we can make this work? Do they identify new channels for you? These days, especially with mobile coming on board, it seems like every other week there's some new technology that's out there. Is your network able to handle that new technology? Can their tracking still work through it? Are they aware of kind of some of the new requirements for it? Are they letting you know when stuff like that happens? Or is it up to you to try and find all that out? You have to decide which of these are your priorities. And the last one on here is how saturated is your vertical? You don't need to have an exclusive position and be the only one in your category on the network. In some cases, that's actually not a good thing because they could already have an existing affiliate base that's appropriate for you. It really varies by vertical. But you don't want to be one of 75, that are all selling a similar product, and it becomes commoditized, and it can just really put you in a difficult place.
And it also puts you in a position where they're going to support the top 10 or 5 more so than you if you're not in the top 10 or 5 on their particular program. So it puts you in an interesting situation where saturation is important because you want to make sure they have experience in your vertical, but at the same time you don't want to be just another publisher or merchant in that vertical.
And then finding partners that fit. Are you regularly getting gap reports and analyses? Are they telling you, okay, you still got an opportunity here and not there, you're still not on these guys, what can we do to help you to do that? Do they have very much experience in your vertical? Have they ever done it before? They don't have to have done it before, but if they did, then they need to let you know that it's something that they can do, or how they're going to address it if you don't. If they don't have that experience. And then also ways to identify content and traffic synergies. Are they looking at a publisher and saying, you know what, these guys are already selling wedding items. One other item that we might want to do then is everybody, for example, when they get married, they need new checks. So tell them about your check publisher. Right? So something along those lines. Are they looking out for you, or are they giving you the tools so that you can go out there and identify those kinds of synergies going on, both in terms of content and in terms of traffic?
And gap reports are extremely important because I do have an 800-pound gorilla in my particular vertical, and I want to know exactly what they're doing and what sites they're on and what publishers they're working with, and also, the experience level in the vertical. Obviously, web hosting is all either small business or developers. So I don't need anybody coming back and telling me from a network, oh, well, why don't we try the fashion industry because, or what? So, as an example. And then the synergies, how well are they helping the publishers to monetize? And does that include adding publishers based on that monetization strategy?
Absolutely.
So then, last area is relationships. Do they give you help with difficult relationships? If you've got a publisher that you've been trying to chase for a while, are they willing to make a phone call on your behalf or give you the contact information so you can? Do they actively look for new partners for you? That's critical because so many new ones will just come on board and you had no idea and all of a sudden they're exploding. I mean, take a look at, 3 years ago, how much was on Pinterest or Instagram? And now, they're major forces in our industry. Paid services and account management. What do you have to pay for additionally to be able to maintain your program? And then finally, competitive information. How much information are they able to give you, both from within your vertical, within their network, and outside their network? Some of it you're probably going to have because you are the merchant that's responsible for it, but they're going to have insights as well. They're going to be able to help you identify or at least give you the tools to find that information within their system of whether you're performing better on coupon sites or whether you're performing better on cashback sites versus your competitors. So see what kind of information like that they can also support you with.
Yeah, competitive information. How well do they work with a competitor of yours? Or do parts of their team work with a competitor of yours? If they do, then they have the model, they have the framework. If that program's successful, there should be no excuse for you to be getting great advice based on your vertical and based on what your company does. As far as paid service and account management, we kind of talked about that. But, really, how much do they get involved, and is there involvement between the relationship between you and the merchant or you and the publisher? Is it a barrier, or is it help facilitate the relationship, kind of like the way we started? Some of them want to own that relationship, and they want everything to go through them, and anything tough, they want to go through them. And, that's okay if they're really doing a great job bringing you new people. And they're proactive on the things that you need. You want to own the relationship, but you don't mind the intervention. But at the same time, if they don't do anything for you, or if they're just not involved, and you have no contact point, then why are you paying for these things? And why do you think you're being supported? So it's an important part of the checklist.
And it comes back to the whole concept of this presentation. The industry is constantly changing. The whole internet scene, the mobile scene. I mean, everything changes so quickly, and you really want to assess whether your network is keeping up with these changes. Are they in a space where they're innovating? And you should have a situation where you're constantly being able to share what you need next for your own work, and the more that you can, give them a wish list, it will eventually make it down to the tech folks and the folks that actually make the decisions on where the network is going next. So the more you can communicate your needs, the better the network will become.
Definitely. So we look forward to keeping the conversation going. Here's our email addresses, so if there's anything that we can do to help you as you're trying to figure out who's the right network or if your program is running the way it should be, please make sure and let us know. We appreciate you guys joining us this morning. We know it's bright and early in the morning, and you guys all got up. Everybody survived last night's hangovers or whatever. So thank you so very much, and have a wonderful time for the rest of Summit. Thank you.
Thank you.